In today's episode 25 of the Metabolic Experience podcast, Matt and I are talking about a podcast that we may have listened to over the weekend that got us a little riled up. We're talking about progress and defining progress. How do you define progress? Is that possible? And talking more about why it's important to find your reason for working out rather than just your results. We also have a really interesting conversation about whether or not I'm going to breastfeed and all about breast milk, which you know you want to hear about. So stay tuned because we've got a great podcast for you.
All right. So I just wanted to tell you something real quick. Caden can't drink milk.
Yeah.
He, I think he must be lactose intolerant because,
Poor kid.
yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he kept puking every day for like
God.
8 weeks, but he wasn't like sick. He was sick at first, but then he would just run around and throw up. And he did this for like 8 days in a row.
Kara must have loved that.
Oh,
God,
it was bad. What do you don't think I took care of it?
No.
You know me too well. But yeah, so we figured out he likes almond milk though. He loves almond milk. So I went to Hannaford, local grocery store, because we were out. So I'm looking around and I'm getting a little panicked because I can see they don't have the exact brand Kara wants.
Yeah.
It's got to be unsweetened, of course.
Right.
No flavoring.
No.
As natural as it can be. So I go back. I pick up what I think is the right kind. I bring it home. She looks at it with a look of disgust and is like, this has 7 grams of sugar. You are feeding him sugar. So she made it work that night, but the next day she went out. I go back, I look in my fridge, and I see this like probably $90 bottle of like almond milk.
It's all worth
for him.
it though. It's all worth it.
But it's kind of funny because I said it in jest. Like
Yeah.
I was joking around. Because he always wants his Bobby. That's his bottle. He calls it his Bobby. And he loved milk. Like, the kid lived on milk.
Right.
So I was like, just put almond milk in there and see if he notices. And she actually did, and he loves it.
And he loves
so,
it,
yeah. It's funny.
Was it the sweetened kind the first time he had it?
No, he's never had the sweetened kind because
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have that kind.
Right,
So he had my, like, I get the lowest calorie kind I can because I use it for protein shakes. That's it.
Yeah.
And maybe cereal sometimes. But it's his is the full fat kind.
Right,
so
right.
as many calories as he can. But I honestly think, like, I don't know how many calories a day the kid eats, like, but whatever it is, half of it comes from almond milk.
Yeah.
It's funny.
not a tough life.
No. So here's something funny. I wanted to ask you, are you going to breastfeed?
Yes. Yeah, I am planning on it. Honestly, 1, it's a savings, right? You don't have to buy food for a while. 2, this kid is just gonna like suck the fat right out of me. I feel like I want to create a stockpile of breast milk and just let it go forever. Because they say, when you that's terrible to say for vain purposes. But I am. My plan is.
Wait, what do they say? They say you lose the weight faster.
If you breastfeed. Yeah, because you're just burning through calories.
Yeah,
and you've got to be constantly producing, and so so that's my plan is to absolutely, and I feel like.
Just don't be like, I know you don't watch Game of Thrones, but in one of the seasons, I think it's Game of Thrones, there's been like 30 seasons of it, so I get them confused. But one of the characters in Game of Thrones, she's like an evil type person, but she has like a 4-year-old son that she breastfeeds still. Yeah, so just, no offense to anyone out there who has a 4-year-old son that breastfeeds. I mean nothing by it.
Yes.
But, maybe I do.
Yeah,
just don't do that.
To each their own, but no, I will not be doing that.
Oh my
not
God.
in a bit. But I will say too, like, my mom just told me, literally, like, when I got pregnant, maybe a couple months into my pregnancy, that so I've got 2 siblings. I've got my older sister, my younger brother. I was the only child that did not get breastfed. And I feel like it shows. Maybe that's why I'm such a sadist.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why
you're an angry little elf. You're an angry little elf.
Who knows? So
Bitter.
I can't. Gino is already destined to be a short little boy, but like I feel like I can't stunt him.
You never know. I mean, Mother Nature is a mad scientist. My buddy, my good friend from college, Scott, he's a small dude. He's probably 5'8", $150, like not a big guy at all.
Right.
His wife was a gymnast, and she's taller, and she's got some muscle to her, and they have twins. And these 2 kids are huge.
Really?
And I didn't think he was capable of fathering such. But to that point, the mom is decent size. So I guess with Brian being a medium-sized guy and you're not the biggest,
not the tallest.
He's probably not going to be super tall. But we always joke around. He'll probably be a state champ wrestler.
Well, that's what Brian felt a move the other night, and it was like the first time he like really felt like his whole body move, and he was like, he's doing, I don't remember what wrestling term he said, but he's practicing his wrestling moves in there, and I was like, oh, I'm just imagining my life of like singlets and like smelly wrestling gyms.
There's sports out there that I think are really rough. All sports are rough on parents.
Right.
You know, you care about your kid, you want them to do well, but take a sport like baseball. You're outside.
Right.
The weather's nice.
Yeah.
You know, you make new friends with the parents on the team. Maybe go out for a couple of drinks, whatever. Take like swimming. Like you're in that smell of like those high school pools and you're in there all day.
All day.
Wrestling's not much better.
I know.
You know, and I think wrestling's like intense too. Like when you watch like a wrestling match, you see the parents, they're like, it's brutal.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. When I coached cheerleading, high school cheerleading, we always practiced after the boys wrestling team. So like it was a small school, so we would practice, and the boys would line up their mats in the middle school cafeteria. They'd mop them down at the end and roll them up, and then we would go in and roll out our mats. The smell inside that cafeteria after those wrestling boys got out was like, it was like hot garbage. It was just so bad. And I'm just I know that's going to be my life. Like I just have to come to terms with that.
The other smell that's bad, I distinctly remember in high school going into like the lacrosse and hockey locker rooms. Those rooms they smell terrible. Yeah. Because they sweat into like their pads,
right?
And you can't like wash that like clothing, so like it's brutal.
It's just bad. Yeah, it's just bad all over. So yeah, I'll breastfeed, and hopefully he won't like wrestling, and he'll be something else.
I know how we went from breastfeeding. We started with almond milk, and then we went breastfeeding and hockey and wrestling.
That's how we do.
Came full circle.
Now let's talk about fitness.
Yeah. But we do have something that we want to. I think it's the lack of mics. We don't have mics in our hands today. We have them clipped to us. It's like
Ron Burgundy.
Yeah. What do I do with my hands? But no, today you and I both consume a good amount of podcasts.
Yeah.
I actually think for us, it's super, and for anyone out there, they're a great, especially the Metabolic Experience podcast. They're a great way to learn and just be constantly educating yourself about everything out there, because we don't have a lot of time. So audio is awesome because you can listen to it in your car, you can listen to it while you're walking around the mall, you can walk your dogs. It's really nice. So sometimes we listen to things that kind of
strike a chord.
Yeah, strike a chord, bother us a little bit. And I don't really care to put anyone on blast, and I don't really want to. I told you this yesterday. I don't care to debate people about this. I don't want to. It's just not how I like to view fitness. I really respect everybody's opinion and their willingness to do a certain style of training.
Right.
I just don't like it when people put down another style of training. Like, you will never hear me do that on this podcast. Like, because for me, even the quote unquote worst types of training are better than the alternative of doing nothing. You know, like certain things, like, you know, everyone rips on P90X, and, you know, is there a more optimal way to do things? Yeah, sure. But as I talked about in the last in my podcast, my solo episode, optimization is a distant second to just doing it. Just being in it and doing it. So when I hear fitness people out there do that, it bothers me. You know, and it strikes a chord with me, and there's usually an ulterior motive behind it. And it took me a while to figure that out. So the comment that this guy made on this podcast, they were talking about recovery, which is obviously a crucial part of any workout. But he made the comment, you should be going to the gym to see progress. If you're not seeing progress, then what's the point? And the context of this was he was kind of making fun of one of our competitors, actually, Orange Theory Fitness. And I'm defending them here on this podcast. But he was making fun of the group training that they do, saying that people are overtrained and not recovering and not seeing results and not making progress. And it bothered me, even though he was talking about Orange Theory during that particular comment. I would defend Orange Theory, and it really bothered me that he defined progress for the person. Yeah,
I think, you know, like you said, any movement is movement. So for me, I think listening to, you know, fitness professionals speak, I think that, like, it's our duty to just, like, be open and honest and realistic and just support and promote movement in any capacity, whatever that means. If somebody's willing to move and if they're happy about moving that way and that's what makes them feel good, then like, who are we to judge whether or not that's the right or wrong way? And like you, I listened to the podcast too, and I think he was talking about, he said something about, people are just working out to burn calories and not focusing on progress. But like you said, who are you to define progress for anybody else? We all have our own version of what that means, of what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I also think too, that comment, that's a bold statement,
right.
Because have you done an Orange Theory or a metabolic workout
right.
yourself? Have you been immersed in the community? Do you have data to support that statement?
Right.
Do you know that people aren't getting stronger?
Right.
Do you know this
assuming?
for a fact? Or
yeah.
are you just blindly throwing things out there and just
right.
assuming it? And, here's the thing that I think about a lot. We all work out for different purposes and different reasons. And, that's one of your favorite sayings in class is find your reason, find your purpose. And the reason you say the word find is because it is unique and different for every person. This guy, his thing is if you're not getting stronger, then you're not making progress.
Right.
And if you're not lifting X weight for more reps or more weight for the same reps every time, you're not making progress.
Right.
And I just thought that was idiotic because strength is it's not a linear process.
Right.
Like there's gonna come a point in time when you're about as strong as you're gonna get. Like and anyone in the fitness space that tells you otherwise is straight up lying to you.
Right.
So I think there's things you could do to get as close to your genetic ceiling as you can get. But the reality is not everybody wants to scrape their genetic ceiling of how much weight they can floor press from week to week to week to week. I think for a lot of people, it de-stresses them.
Yep.
It reduces anxiety. It improves their blood work. It improves their blood pressure. It makes them a healthier person. It enriches their lives. It's something they enjoy doing. So, I think that there's a lot of gray in this with like the recovery side of things. And I wish more of our clients would listen to their bodies sometimes in our workouts. Sure. And I think your body doesn't lie to you. Like the biofeedback you get from when you're tired or when you're sore or when you really, like there's days I don't feel like working out, but I do it and I feel better.
Right.
But on the days I really don't feel like it, I will take that day off. But you just have to listen to your body. You don't need an Oura ring or a watch or any other form of technology with a red light or a green light or a yellow light to tell you if you're physically prepared to do something. It's just crazy to me. So I think that kind of stuff is more stressful. If we're talking, the reason this guy said you're not making progress is because you're under stress. You're putting your body under too much stress. I think it's more stressful to look at that crap.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's funny. So like, I think that's one of the reasons why I love so much to say like find your reason or what is your why, or because I think if you are just solely going to the gym for progress, as this gentleman put, if you're not making progress, what's the point of going? If that's your only reason to go, then I think you're setting yourself up for failure, because progress, that's a fleeting thing. You know what I mean? You've got to find that deeper, you've got to enjoy it. We've talked about this before on other podcasts, but if you're not enjoying it, if you don't have a community of people that brings you back to the gym every day, if you don't have a deeper purpose besides just, how much weight can I press or what do I look like, then I feel like you're just setting yourself up to fail long term, because like you said, it's not a linear process. Or like look at me currently right now in my physical state. I go to the gym 6 days a week. Am I seeing progress? No.
So I guess you shouldn't go.
Right. So does that mean that I shouldn't go?
What are you doing?
Right. So according to him, I'm wasting my time because I'm not lifting heavier weights. In fact, I'm lifting much lighter weights than I've ever lifted. But you're telling me that there's no progress happening, that that my blood volume isn't being moved throughout my body, that my mobility isn't staying strong, that I'm not keeping and maintaining my strength to be ready for life long term.
Well, I think if we're being honest, for you, just focus it, because I know you. I think it helps your self-esteem and your confidence too.
100%.
I mean, you went from being not that you're not now, but an extremely fit, in shape, the epitome of a very fit person, to having a baby
right,
and
right,
being pregnant.
right,
So,
right.
that's an adjustment that I think a
100%.
lot of our listeners, especially, well, not especially, only the women can relate to, especially the women on that one.
Especially
But
those guys that are
some of the
carrying
dads put on weight too when their wife is pregnant. But
yeah, testosterone drops. It's
yep,
proven.
yeah, I know. They sap it right
They
out of
do.
you. No, but I think your reason is unique to you
Right.
in your situation,
Right.
and how exercise and working out makes you feel.
Right.
A lot of these guys out there that talk about, you're overtraining because you're not making progress, you're not recovering. Don't be fooled. They want you to buy their online fitness routine.
Right.
They want you to go on there and spend $139 to buy a generic program that they give everybody.
Right.
And they come out with a new one every couple months. They promote that for a different type of thing, and they try to assert themselves as experts so that you guys, and some of these guys are knowledgeable, and
Of course,
and
yeah,
I
very good
respect
at what
their
they do.
knowledge, but what I don't respect is the fact that you're putting down another style of training because you don't want someone to do Orange Theory,
Right.
or you don't want them to do Metabolic. You want them to buy your workout.
Right.
You're trying to essentially brainwash them that this is somehow detrimental to them,
Right.
and this is going to really bring them down. And in doing so, you're basically just promoting your own product.
Right. Well, I think you and I have talked about this before. These people that are talking about, how terrible group training is, and they're talking about how, it's non-customizable to each individual client, and that, like you said, you're overtraining and you can't make those adjustments for people that are overtraining, and
Just like gross generalizations.
right, very, very gross generalizations. But like you said, so then at the end of their rant about how terrible group training is, they try to sell a fitness program,
Yep.
an online program.
Oh, by the way.
where they never see you.
Yep.
They have no idea what your form
Yep.
looks like.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe I might be in a room with 48 people, but I get to know those 48 people pretty damn well.
Yeah.
And at least I can see and check in on what their form looks like,
Yeah.
on what they're doing. If they do need to slow down, if they have an injury that needs to be modified. If you're selling an online program,
Yeah.
how are you
Or if you're an online
modifying-
coach.
Right, right. Like, how are you, so you're telling me you're more able to modify and adjust for somebody that you've never seen and you don't see on a daily basis, and you're saying group training is terrible, but aren't you group training, but just like from behind the scenes across the
email.
nation
Yeah,
through email?
yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And, I think that's why the people that, and we're only saying this because, you guys, I think one of the best tips I heard on a podcast was to really identify with, especially in the fitness space, a lot of us have different opinions, right? Like, you're going to hear a lot of different things, and a lot of people's views it's not, but it's almost like religion,
Right.
and that's how I've always viewed it. If someone is, I'm not Muslim, and I'm not Jewish, and if someone is, Muslim or Jewish, I respect them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to try and convert them to become
Right.
a Christian, or I'm not going to say what they're doing is harmful.
Right.
Because that's just not who I am, and that's not what I believe in. And in fitness, it's the same way. And in some ways, it's a very good analogy in the sense that, if someone is Muslim and their faith brings them fulfillment,
Right.
hope, happiness, community,
Right.
great. And like, that's awesome.
Yep.
And for me, those things trump anything bad that I might disagree with about
Right.
their religion.
Right.
So, to sit here and say that progress is just about getting stronger. Not everybody is an Olympic weightlifter
Right.
or is a competitive powerlifter.
Right.
If you are a competitive powerlifter, yes, that is all that matters
Right.
to you. That should be your obsession.
Right.
But we've clearly stated several times now that in these group training workouts like Metabolic, like Orange Theory, it's not all about just the improvement in your quote unquote performance every single time you're in the
Right.
gym. And the irony is we see at Metabolic a lot of progress with people.
Oh,
I mean, we have
huge.
people get so much stronger. We
Yeah.
have people lose inches off their waist, gain
Right.
inches on their arms, get broader shoulders, get a bigger butt,
Right.
Get a healthier lifestyle,
Right.
bring their spouse who hadn't worked out in the gym for 5 years
Right.
to come in with them, and suddenly we see them both changing together,
Right.
bringing couples together,
Right.
Like
Yeah.
strengthening relationships between my mom. I don't spend a ton of time. My mom's, she still works a lot, and I don't spend a ton of time with her, but a couple times a week she'll work out in a class I teach, or I'll work out with her, and it's a way for us to spend time together.
Right.
It's a part of a community. So in some ways, our own relationship has progressed,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
So how can you sit there and say that if you're not seeing progress in the gym, then what's the point? Because I think that's just someone who just doesn't get it.
Right, yeah. You just said it absolutely perfectly. What's the point? The point is that there's so much more to life than how much you can bench press, right? Like there's so much more to life than those little markers. And we see that progress constantly. But that doesn't have to be the focus. That can be, kind of one of the benefits. And absolutely, it makes you feel great when you started on X weight and now you're on Y weight. But like you said as well, like it's not linear, and the stronger you get, the harder it is to see those gains in strength. Like it'll happen slowly, but it's gonna get harder the stronger you get. So I think having those other factors that go into it just make it keeps people coming back.
Yeah, I always say that metabolic training is the decathlete of fitness, and I really think it is. And by that I mean you're going to get strength, you're going to improve your cardiovascular performance / level of conditioning, you're going to burn fat, you're going to build muscle, you're going to improve your mobility, and you're going to improve your health. Okay, and if you just take a real decathlete in track and field, they have to train for the 100, the javelin, the shot put, the high jump, the 1,500 meters. I think it's 1,500 meters that they do. Listen, training for a 100-meter dash and a 1,500-meter run are two entirely different things. They're very, very different. So their training is not going to be optimized to one specific event. Instead, it's going to be a well-rounded blend of things that allow them to be proficient in all of those areas. And that is what we provide to our clients. So it's kind of like this same guy going up to a decathlete and saying, hey man, if you're not strictly training to improve your 100-meter dash time, then what's the point? Because that's just one part of it. That's part of it, but that's not all of it.
Yeah. Well, also I think one thing that needs to be stressed, and I think a lot of people that maybe aren't in the group training realm, they make assumptions, right, or gross generalizations, as you said earlier, that the programming doesn't make sense, that we're just throwing things on a board, having people run around, getting them to sweat as much as we can with no rhyme or reason to it. And I think that's another thing that people need to understand. That's true in some fitness organizations, but I can only speak to what we do at Metabolic because that's what I know. It is extremely, we put a ton of time, focus, energy, hours into our programming to make sure it makes sense, so that we are building a well-rounded program to create the decathlete of athletes. It's there is absolutely a reasoning behind every single movement that we do. And I mean, you and I sit together and make them. Yep. So it's not that we're just throwing, slap shit to the wall to see if it sticks, but there's a reason behind what we do. And that's why our clients are seeing progress.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Yeah, and I think what people mean by that when they say it seems random or highly varied is we have core foundational movement patterns. Goblet squats, and hip hinges, which we use RDLs for a lot. We're going to do some kind of TRX row often because it's a highly effective movement. We're going to do a push-up a lot. We're going to do a floor press or an overhead press, or and these types of movements appear in our programming very, very frequently. My personal philosophy, I don't think you need to program the same time under tension and the same rep scheme every single time you do those movements. I think, first of all, it's boring as hell. Secondly, you're just improving your neurological efficiency in those movements sometimes when you train that way. And you just get really good at that rep range. But we try and keep not to use an unscientific term, but keep the body guessing. Do different things. Keep it fun. Keep it interesting. And I think, too, how strong are you really if you can't do something new? Right. So if you have something, say you've been doing a squat routine and you've been doing 5x5, 5x4, week 3, 5x3, 5. What I mean by that is 5 sets of 3. So I get what you're doing. You're increasing weight, dropping reps down. But what if I were to tell you to do 2 sets of 20 of a Bulgarian split squat, which we call pitcher squats at Metabolic. What if I told you to do that and you could barely do it with your body weight?
Right.
How strong are you really?
Right.
So that's what we try and convey and communicate. Right. And it's really cool because a lot of our clients, they can answer the bell and step up and perform well in something that is done in a different rep scheme than they did last week.
Right.
Or maybe it's a movement they haven't done in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter because they're generally strong.
Right, there's athletic.
They have general strength.
We talk about life strength a lot too, but like when in life is like anything that consistent? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if an earthquake hits tomorrow and we've got to like sprint out of this building to, get it before, like that's not a timed set where you're doing 5 squats by 5. You need to be able to adapt and react to changes in life, right? And I think, that it may seem like when you're doing a group training or a metabolic training session that like, oh, maybe it's a little sporadic, but like that's training for life because you don't know what you're going to be faced with.
I think it's one of those things. I think a lot of training advice is passed down from strength and conditioning coaches of athletes. Right. And then from powerlifters or even bodybuilders as well. And those are all populations of people that have really specific goals. And, say you're a strength and conditioning coach of an MMA fighter and you're working on someone's squat speed and strength so that they can explode and toss their opponent over their shoulder in a very forceful, violent manner. Right. If you were to poll our clients and say, would you rather have a style of training that makes it so you can hike up a mountain with your family and not be gassed, or have the ability to throw someone over your shoulder? I guarantee you 99, maybe some of them, but not 99% of them are going to say, I want to be able to do things in life that help me out in life. I want to play with my kids. I want to I want to do whatever more actively like I used to when I was younger. And I think that, these extremities of physical fitness goals and feats are just, they're blinding people of what we are here for and why we are doing this. And I think, for anyone, if you say you do metabolic training and you're not doing an optimal program for powerlifting or bodybuilding, well, what happens if you just stop training altogether? Right. What happens? Like you become detrained, you gain body fat, you lose muscle, and those life strength things get a lot harder.
Right, 100%. Yeah, and I think like you said, we're not like bashing any of those other types of training. If that's what you like to do, then please, by all means, as long as you're moving, do it. But I think
do you
but what I get upset about and what we got upset about with this was that this person was making it sound like if you're not doing it my way, you're doing it wrong and you shouldn't be doing it. And I think for anybody to put down anybody else's lifestyle choices it's crazy. It's just because at the end of the day, what's worse? Like what's worse, doing nothing or doing a HIIT training program? Doing nothing or doing Orange Theory? Doing nothing or like, because that's what this person is saying, that like you should just be doing volume training and that if you're not recovering enough and hitting these, then you're not doing it right. But I just think that that's a really, it's almost like, I don't want to say like shameful, but like you shouldn't be downplaying people's efforts, right?
Yeah, I think this person could have conveyed their message differently if they wanted to talk about recovery and educated the masses about signs and symptoms that you need a rest day or things you can do on your end. Well, we could have our own episode about this. Things you can do to enhance and expedite the recovery process. That would have been great. But to sit here and say, how do you know how much someone is sleeping? How do you know what they're eating? How do you know if they got in a fight with their husband or their wife or they got fired from their job or they just got laid off? Like there's so many other quote unquote stresses that go into this, right? That it's really hard to sit here and point at a program and say that that's the reason someone is in recovery. And again, like I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but listen to your damn body. If you are feeling like shit and you are worn down and you can barely walk across the street and you're just tired, unless you're prepping for a physique show and you got to strap up then and just get it done, take a day off. It's okay. Go for a walk. Do yoga. Stretch. Do work on your mobility. We've never once said that any of our clients should do this 6 days a week. We often joke that you probably shouldn't.
Right.
You know, we say that to people. When people join the gym, they ask me how many times. My answer is always start with 3 days a week and see how that goes on non-consecutive days. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever you want to do. But I think that's a good way to introduce yourself to this. So I just think, you know, in general, like, I think it was interesting that you gave the example of your reason for being pregnant, for working out, and we're talking about people's reason for training.
Right.
But say you're like post-pregnancy, you know, a year from now, what do you see your reason for doing any of this as being?
I think being a good example for my son. You know, I want to be able to
You
stay.
stole mine.
But sorry, I can come up with another one. Well, a year from now, maybe if I'm speaking really, it's going to be to get like my bod back.
Yeah.
But I think I'll be a little bit.
That's
That'll be
wrong.
my.
That's wrong.
Right. That's
you
right.
didn't say getting
that
stronger.
Way. That's right. Right. But I think like my reason a year from now is going to be just to be like the healthiest, strongest version of me that I can be. And I do love like lifting heavy, and I miss the like cardio burnout. So I think for me, like, it's going to be, my motivation is going to be get back to that place where I feel like my confident self in the gym. You know what I mean? And to provide a good example for my son and be able to, you know, stay healthy and run around with him for as long as I can, you know? But yeah, for sure. I think like, I'm not ashamed to say that, like, I'm looking forward to the comeback trail, you know, and like getting stronger and just feeling good.
Yep.
But and yours?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, providing a good example for Caden is great, and it's kind of funny actually, because Kara, I have some equipment in my basement that I'll get like an arm pump now and then or something like that, and Kara won't let him in that room because it's too dirty for her. So he doesn't really ever see me doing it yet, but I've been working with him on some push-ups and we have an up-down game, which is really doing sit-ups.
That's
so
awesome.
We work on that, but. No, I just feel good.
Right.
I feel good,
right.
You know, and I've done the whole like try and bench press as much as I squat, and I felt like shit.
Yeah.
Like that was just me, and I'm not downplaying that.
Right.
That was me. My joints killed.
Right.
I had to be chubbier and heavier set to succeed in those areas, and I didn't feel as good. You know, being leaner, I personally feel as though health is a very, basically the definition of health means the absence of disease, right? So there's only so much that your training philosophy is going to impact that, and I'm aware of that, guys. I really am. I think there's a lot, like you said, a lot of forms of exercise will improve your health to the best that they can. But for me, I think I'm physically as healthy as I can be, but I also think mentally too. It's a big mental health thing for me. You know, I know one of our staff members, Chris Fasano, has a background in neuroscience, and he'll be so happy that I mentioned this right here. But, you know, for me, just my reason and my purpose is I always want to I never want to lose sight of my original goal. Was I did this because I loved it. And I always talk about this story, but I started training in sophomore year in college regularly when I was 19 with a group of guys, and I think what I loved the most, did my arms fill out my shirts a little more? Yeah, they did. They went from like 12 inches to 13 inches.
Right.
But, you know, more than that, you know, it brought me closer to my friends, and it made me feel like I was a part of something. I think that has never changed for me, and I think that is honestly like my biggest reason for doing this. I also think too I have a really good sense of self-awareness, and I think that's one of the reasons in business I've been successful is I know what I'm good at, I know what my limitations are, and I know I'm not the biggest guy. I know I'm not going to bench press 1,000,000 pounds, and guess what? I'm okay, with that. It's okay, you know, and like if you were to tell me, well, you know, if you took Tuesday and Thursdays off and did mobility work for an hour, you would perform better on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't care because that doesn't help me mentally as much as being there. And again, I'm not trying to send a mixed message because I know some of my clients out there are probably listening to me saying, but you told me to take a rest day.
Right.
That's me. I'm in the fitness space.
Right.
I'm wired a little differently than most. You know, I think
Right.
for a lot of you out there, take that rest day. That's absolutely fine. But I think another thing too is for me, I like to set the tone. I'm a lead from the front kind of leader. I mean, I think you know my leadership style, and you know that's why I'm still teaching classes. Like I don't have to truthfully teach classes. Like financially, I'll be okay if I don't teach another class ever again for the rest of my life. But it's not about that. It's about having everybody look at me get up at 3:30 in the morning. and go put that, do that, teach a
Right.
couple classes, work out, and put in a full day of work.
Right.
And seeing me do that day in and day out,
Right.
week in and week out, year in and year out, setting an example for people. But I think that's a big reason I do it, is to just set a good example for, like we always say, you got to be the product. So I'm
100%.
trying to be the product as best I can. And I actually think in some ways, some of our trainers are they're honestly very genetically gifted.
Yes.
You know, the professional athletes. My brother-in-law, Will Harris, played basketball professionally for 7 years. Started at an ACC basketball school as a freshman. Funny story about Will. Will's like 6'6", 240, and he eats like a bird. And it's not you got to see it.
Yeah.
It's not intentional. He just
how he
has
is.
a tiny stomach, and I don't know how he has
I
so
wish I
much
could be
muscle
that way.
mass. I really don't, but he's jacked. And then Drew's another one. I mean, Drew comes from good stock. Let's just say that. Yeah. I'm more genetically average. So I think for me, in some ways, I can represent the product in a very realistic, attainable way. I was never paid to play a sport like those two guys were. I'm more of just a regular dude. Right. So if I can do this, there's nothing special about me at all. You can do this too. And like that's a big reason that I do this.
Yeah, I think that's awesome and perfectly said. And it's funny, you talked about the like mental side of it too. I was just talking to a client this morning. We had just worked out at 7:00 in Bobby's class, and she was asking just about how life was. I hadn't seen her in a while, and she was saying how just crazy stressful work is right now. She was like, my God, it's nuts. I feel like if I'm not working, I'm thinking about work, or I'm sleeping. She said, you know what? The only time I'm not thinking about work is when I'm in this class, and that's why this class is so important to my well-being, because it is 45 minutes where I'm not thinking about what deadlines I have, and so like that's another example of that's not progress per se, but it's purpose. It's a time to just decompress, and it doesn't have to be about lifting the most weight or jumping the highest jump or whatever it is. It's just a time to let go of life and just chill, you know?
Up here in upstate New York, not to be morbid, but unfortunately this past weekend, and I'm sure it happened everywhere, there was some fatalities that occurred in
Terrible.
car accidents with people drinking, driving, and whatnot, which is just awful. But it shows you how sudden and fleeting life can be. And do you want to live your life that way, worrying about every little thing with your recovery and this and that, and trying to make everything perfect? Or do you just want to be happy every single day? What do you want to do? How do you want to live your life? You get to live this life one time. So, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I just want to be happy. And if working out makes me happy, then damn it, I'm going to do it.
Right, absolutely. If Richard Simmons step aerobics makes you happy in your basement, do it. Just whatever your style of training is, whatever your movement is. Obviously, metabolic training is what we love and we believe in.
It's the only way you should train.
That's right. but it would be wrong of us to say that it is the only way, because though we do believe it is for everybody, though I do believe it is the best way to train, though I do believe it is the total well-rounded package for anybody that's looking for anything fitness related. If it's not for you, but something else is, I support that.
100%. And I think, you have a grounded approach that you do think it's the best way to train
100%.
for what a lot of our clients are striving for. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you think everyone else needs to think that.
Right.
And I think there's a real difference there.
Right.
So, in closing, guys, understand that your reason is personal to you. Don't ever, ever let someone define your reason for embracing a fitter, healthier lifestyle. Deter what you think about that, and don't let someone define anything for you, because at the end of the day, if we're talking about strength, that's about as weak as it gets, in my opinion. Like when you let someone else tell you your reason for doing something, or you let someone else dictate that for you, come on, guys, we got to be stronger than that. So, but thank you guys for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a good one. And I think it's always fun to talk about these issues that we don't often get a chance to talk about. If you guys could go on iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. I know it's kind of a pain, guys. I listen to podcasts, and I'd be lying if I said I reviewed all of them. And maybe after this I will do a couple because I feel bad. But it really does, and it's kind of funny to ask for this, just because it's the truth, because we're both pretty humble, and
Yeah.
we feel like stupid asking because
Asking.
it really just helps us. But
Right.
we would like you guys to help us,
Yeah.
because we do genuinely want to get this message to as many people as we can and spread our love of metabolic training, health, wellness, fitness to as many people as possible. And by you leaving a rating and review on iTunes, it drives us up the fitness charts and helps us get our word out there, which is the best word and the only word you need.
That's right. The only word you should ever listen to.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. But we do appreciate your guys' help, and if you could give us that review, it does. It makes a huge difference for us.
Yeah. Well, until next time, guys, this is Matt, Lynsey, signing off. Talk soon.